Thank you all for coming tonight. This is the Carma Axlr8r demo night, and we're all happy to be here. I want to say a special thank you to the cohort. It's been an interesting journey, and I hope that we can continue to do it together, and if it has to be over via email, phone, or whatever, but I want to stay in close touch with all of you, so I wanted to say thank you to you guys for being here, and also to Sean and Connor for your generous amount of time. This has been a wonderful experience for both of us. As it is, Cabeasy. I'm Jonathan McKinney. This is Fazal Yamin, and we are Cabeasy. Cabeasy is a university-specific taxi sharing platform. Now, I want you to think about this in the context of universities tonight, but it can be thought about just for institutions. Think about office parks, businesses, church groups. But we're starting at universities because we think there's a special profile there. All of us tonight, for this very moment, are going to be college students. And if you have gone to college, I want you to think back to the memories that enriched you most. I want you to think about the times when you were on campus, which I'm sure many of you had enriching experiences there, but you probably also had enriching experiences off of campus as well. And I would bet that you actually had enriching experiences with groups off of campus who happen to be your friends, maybe even friends you still talk to today. So this is the situation currently facing most university students. This is a static shuttle system. This is where the bus comes when it wants to come. These are students in isolation out in the cold. But they all have PDAs, they all have iPhones. They can control, potentially, or influence when that bus were to come if they could be better organized. And not only that, they could probably better influence where that shuttle was to go, or were to go, if they could tell that bus where to go. We understand transportation as a matter really of access. Transportation is about getting from point A to point B. And the point B is really opportunity. Opportunities off of campus, opportunities on campus, but transportation is ultimately the way to do it. Problem with transportation and access to transportation can be costs. It's generally costly if you are, say, Johnny, an individual who is, like most US students, does not own a car, and he is at the mercy of either that static shuttle system or a taxi on the other end of the spectrum. A taxi is wonderful. It's dynamic. It takes you exactly where you want to go, and it's really time efficient. But it is also very costly. And for Johnny and most other US college students, it becomes prohibitively expensive for him. It's not an option. So he's really stuck with that shuttle right now. We also understand that as Cabeasy, we're asking people to ride share. And one major problem with ride sharing most of the time comes up is safety. Am I getting into a car with a stranger? What does that mean? There was a study done at Virginia Tech University in 2010. And essentially, the participants were asked, would you get into a car with a complete stranger? Only 7% agreed that they would. But that number jumps to 70% would get into a car with a stranger who is part of a network that they can identify. And in this case, a network could be Facebook, it could be a sports fan group, it could be a church group, or it could be a university. You now have 70% of the people participating in potentially a rideshare program. We believe that sharing can only happen in communities that you can trust. It has to be among trust. That's the linchpin with why ride sharing may not have been successful to this point. You have to create a sense not just of perceived trust, but real trust. Real trust for us comes through creating a closed network. Closed networks create accountability. You're accountable to everyone in your network. And there then equals not just a safer environment through perception, but also through reality. And then when you layer it over, say, another already pre-created system such as a university, you now have 2 layers of trust. You now have 2 layers of safety. You now have a much greater buy-in of participation. Remember Johnny? Johnny goes to school in Evanston, Illinois. It's $32 cab ride down to the Loop, Chicago Loop, for him. Again, as I said before, it's prohibitively expensive for him to take a cab. But now that he's part of a shared network, he has access to Martin. Right, Martin? And he has access to Melissa. And with that, with each participant, his price goes down. And that number actually becomes a number that he can afford. So too can Martin, so too can Melissa. It's an affordable situation now. You use Cabeasy, you have access to events in downtown Chicago, like a baseball game. You have access to what Chicago has in spades, which is rich culture, dance, theater. You have access to also great food. We all know that college students generally lack in good food or dining options. Here you have a short trip downtown. A cheap trip can give you really good food. Now this is just one segment of what we would call experiences. It's one sliver. But these experiences aren't really, the barrier to these experiences isn't the cost of that, it's the cost of getting there. And And what Cabeasy is trying to do is reduce that amount, basically getting rid of that barrier. Each year, in the United States, 21 million students, and this is growing, go to school, go to college every year. That means you have 21 million students who are part of closed-knit or essentially closed trusted communities, networks of people who are willing to share with each other. And that, to put into context, is the population, the size of the continent, or is the population of the continent of Australia. And I would like to pass this over to Fazal now to tell you how we intend to reach those 21 million.
So students can download the Cabeasy app to their Android or iPhone devices and start sharing today. We've partnered with local taxi providers within those communities to allow them to book those rides. Now, how do we make sure that it's a trusted community? We've created a closed network, which we do by validating students have the correct email address before they can sign up. Once they've signed up, we then allow them to search for rides using a select unit of hotspots, either on campus or off campus. And if they don't find the ride they want, then they can post their own ride. Now, when they see the ride, they see the costs go down as people continue to join. Everyone gets together, one person orders the cab, and at the end of the ride, we split the cost through Venmo, which is basically this generation's PayPal. And you're thinking, this is awesome, right? I mean, why aren't people trying to do this? Well, some people have tried to do this. Uber and Lyft have been trying to tackle the shared cab market in really small, select communities, and they're not doing that great. You know, as we've said, it really starts in sharing trusted, closed networks. Okay? And if you're taking an Uber or Lyft by yourself, that's prohibitively expensive. Craigslist, which was once, a place where people went for rides, is falling by the wayside. The same with rideshare boards, which are a really dominant thing on campus for kids to share rides. So we're left with some of the other places on campus, such as the campus shuttle, which takes you to East Campus from West Campus. Occasionally, it might take you to the airport, but that's once or twice a year. And it doesn't really take you downtown, where you want to go and enjoy culture and do all of those things. So then the last thing we're left with is the University Bulletin Board, which is the purveyor of all pieces of information on campus. But realistically, do you think that you're going to find your ride here? I don't. Now, we're starting at Northwestern University, where we did a pilot program in 2013. In a 2-week period, we matched over 50 shared rides. Okay? That's 2, 3, up to 4 students taking a ride together using an app that allowed them to just group. We didn't even allow them to actually order the ride or split the cost. So we're going back there. Northwestern is in Chicago, thriving downtown scene. Arts, community, culture, 2 huge airports located right nearby. After Northwestern, we'll expand out to the greater Chicago area, where there are several other universities. And then in the following quarters of this year, we'll expand out to other universities in cities and nearby cities elsewhere based on profiles that we've defined. Okay. Now, we make $2 for each ride referral with our cab and taxi partners, and that'll get us a couple $100 within the first few quarters. Starting next year, we're moving over to a rev share model with an average cost of $32 per ride. We'll make a few thousand within the first quarter. Now, who are we? We are a product manager and engineer who's been part of several startups and 2 successful exits. We're an industrial designer who's been trying to crack the shared taxi market for over 6 years and built several platforms to do so. We're a PhD candidate and professor at Columbia University who studies transportation. And not just transportation, shared transportation specifically. We're also bootstrappers. And we're really interested in hearing more about communities, networks, and places that you're a part of that could benefit from Cabeasy, the platform, the technology. We'd really like to hear from you, whether it's a church group, an alumni group, business, or other community. So please come grab John or I afterwards. Give us a shout. We'd love to talk and hear more. Thank you.